You probably have to say like, okay, or something like that. All right. I can't see you anymore. Hopefully you can see my screen. Everybody can see my screen. All I need is one person to say yes or one person to say no. Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, here we go. All right, here we go. Let's do this. So Camp IdRaHaJe, just to give you a little bit of background, it's about 70 years old. It is 45 minutes straight west of school, out 285. So if you've never been there, if you're familiar enough with Colorado, it's just short of a town of Bailey, out 285. It's about 260 acres. It has a huge summer camp program. So through their summer camps, they probably bring 3,500 students through their camps in the summer. And then we are typically the first school every fall. And so this is probably my 22, 3, 4, 5th year, whatever, of bringing students to Camp IdRaHaJe, somewhere in the low 20s. So we're typically the first because they bring schools up there all fall until the weather just turns south on them, right? So Camp IdRaHaJe. So IdRaHaJe is the first two letters of I'd rather have Jesus. Okay, so that's where they get the name IdRaHaJe. It's been around forever. The executive director and his wife run it, Mike and Amber DeBoer. They are actually one of my wife's and my very, very, very best friends. We do a lot with them. So obviously I've known him for 20 some years and we became great friends, and then my kids kept going there. So I have like a deep, deep, deep love for this place. My kids still, when they come back, they like to go up to camp. And now that they're in their 20s, they still like to go up to camp and see Amber and Mike. So I have this really, really deep, deep passion for this place. It's just an awesome place. So they're called classes. And basically what happens is we break the students up into groups of, it's like 8 to 10-ish. And this, of our 3 middle school camps, this is the one camp where we have parent chaperones. So our teachers go, so like Mrs. McCraith, Miss V, Mr. Fuller, Miss Deer, they go. Okay. But because we have so many groups, we do have parents go. Okay. And so in those groups of like 8 or 10, they rotate through these classes. All right. And when you rotate through these classes, the first class that everybody takes is kind of this mingling game. It's this get to know you game. So like the students that are brand new to Denver Christian, it's perfect for them. First of all, it's early in the year. Second of all, they like get to know everybody's name. So it's an awesome way to get to know your brand new classmates. Okay. And then I get people are still popping in. So really what the student, along with some other gear, and we'll talk about that down the road. And I think I saw Mr. Fuller pop on here. If y'all want to jump in, Mrs. McCraith, Mr. Fuller, basically the students have to arrive with like this adventurous, risk-taking, super encourager, like get after it, I'm going to try everything attitude. And because some of it, so like my son, obviously he's been going there since he was in 1st grade, but he also went there as a Denver Christian kid. My son is so afraid of heights. It's like immeasurable how scared he is of heights. But his adventurous spirit and his encouraging classmates encouraged him to do like the high ropes and the high rappel and the stuff and the climbing wall where you get up to these pretty intense heights. And then they all get to celebrate, right? So that's the spirit with which you got to show up with. Okay. You got to like, I'm just going to try it. I might be scared. And I'll tell you, this kid, he's probably, let's see, he's probably 26, 27, 28 by now. I went on the high rappel with him. So there's 2 ropes that go down. Here's a story. His name is Ethan. Ethan and he was so afraid. And I said, look, I'll go down next to you and we'll just work our way down. We hung off the side of this cliff for 45 minutes. My legs fell asleep. I thought they were going to literally fall off my body. They totally fell asleep, but he eventually made it all the way down, and it took forever, but he made it all the way down. And it's probably a story he tells to this very day. And maybe it involves like me being just a horrible human being, making him go off this cliff, but it could be that it was like just this really transforming experience. Okay. Anything to add to that, Mrs. McCrae, Mr. Fuller?
I think you hit on it. But yeah, it's just like one of the sweetest moments when students are really afraid and then they still go for it. And then we get to celebrate with them after. Even this last fall, there was one student who was really afraid, and like out of nowhere, we had this like pack of 7th graders just start come and like chanting his name. And so it's really a cool moment of us all just like coming together and building each other up, and it's awesome. So yeah, super excited.
Cool. Great story. Great story. All right. So we head up. You arrive at school at the normal time. You'll bring all your gear. Students, you are not moving out of your house for the semester. So your suitcase should not be like the size of like a coffin. Like it just a little carry-on. It's good. Like we got to get this thing on a bus, not an airplane. Okay. So just think, I got to bring my right gear, but I'm not moving out of my house for like 4 months. Okay. So you got to balance that. All right. And we'll get to the gear at some point. So here's kind of some pictures. On the far left is it's part of the high ropes course, and you kind of make your way across, and you'll notice in each of the pictures, and we'll talk about it in a second, the belay ropes. I wish I could point. Oh, actually I can point. You can probably see my cursor. You see these little belay ropes. We'll talk about kind of the symbolism of those. And then here's the rock wall. So that rock wall is about 45 feet high. This peak is about 45, and it's 360. So you climb, there's routes, they call them, all around the wall. And some are more difficult than others, so you can challenge yourself and things like that. Upper right-hand corner is more of the high ropes course. Bottom right-hand corner, that's Mike DeBoer. That's my buddy Mike. That's the executive director. It says staff. So that's the rappel. So you can see the ground below, those tiny little houses way down there. They're not tiny, they're just a really long ways away. So you rappel off this cliff, and you'll notice there's 2 kids going at the same time. And so that's the ropes, or the rappel course. So here's the idea. I'm going to pause on these for a quick second, just so you can kind of see these. One of the words that you're going to hear a lot about is the word trust. And their point, it's all about trusting in the Lord, right? It's turning our life over to Jesus and trusting in Jesus, trusting in God. But part of it is the symbolism of the rappel, or of the belay ropes, is you have to trust those too. You have to trust the equipment. You have to trust the staff. You have to trust your classmates to be encouragers. In some cases, your classmates in the low ropes challenge, you're on the ground and you're completing these tasks, these low challenges. You're trusting your classmates. So there's a ton of opportunity for trust. for you to both receive trust and give trust, right? So that's kind of, oh, slow down. Yeah. So that's kind of the idea of the whole trip. Oh, you're going to see this slide. I think it's 4 times I have it in there. You're at altitude. You have to have a water bottle with you at all times. So you're going to see this slide, I think literally like 3 more times as a reminder. It's going to burn into your brain. So you got to have a water bottle, and we'll talk about gear in down the road a bit. Okay. All right, here we go. So here's clothing. It is in September. So typically, the weather's actually really good. So it might be super hot down here, but we're at high enough altitude up there where it's super nice and not like scorching hot. But there are times when there's some afternoon showers. So that's kind of that light jacket. And so if you kind of scroll down to like the 5th bullet says hiking pants or something, avoid jeans or sweatpants. Couple of reasons. One is if they get wet, like if it rains or something in an afternoon shower and it rains for like 20 minutes, you're walking around. I mean, those are like sponges. They'll take forever to dry. The second thing is the harness that you wear in basically every single activity are so uncomfortable with jeans and because of all the seams and scrunched up sweatpants. So my recommendation, Mrs. McCrae, Mr. Fuller, you might have other ideas. My recommendation is like basketball shorts, not like super baggy basketball shorts, but like basketball shorts. Not the short, trendy shorts that are happening right now that we're dress coding students for, not those shorts. The reason is they are not long enough to be under the harness, and it is like 3-inch nylon. It will absolutely burn. It will be horrible. So you want longer shorts. I cannot stress that enough. You want longer shorts because there's a couple of days you will literally spend all day in a harness. And the last thing you want is a high level of discomfort to derail your experience. So my recommendation is basketball shorts. Do you want to add to that, Mrs. McCrae or Mr. Fuller?
Yeah, I'll jump on that. It's built to hold like 5,000 pounds, right? So
Yep.
the harnesses are real. The bigger thing is that jacket. Like they are not messing around. If it rains, we are going. So bring a jacket.
Good reminder. Yes. Yeah, they're not shutting camp down. They're not going to shut camp down if it starts sprinkling or anything like that. It's just go time. Because here's the thing. The schedule is built in such a way that if you miss a class, like if all of a sudden this major lightning storm, it is unlikely that you will make that class up. So they really do everything humanly possible to get these classes in. Let's see. All right. Footwear. So a couple of things about the footwear. Hiking shoes or running shoes are the best choice. And I say hiking shoes, I do not mean hiking boots. Hiking boots are good until you're, let's say on the rock wall. Hiking boots don't work well as you're trying to put your little toe on a hold or at the top of a hold. It's not awesome. Running shoes are perfect. 2 reasons. One is you do a ton of walking, and I mean a ton of walking. If they get wet, they're mostly mesh, and so they dry really, really fast. And like on the climbing wall, they're pointy, right? Running shoes have a little bit of a point to them, and so putting them on the holds are really, really good. And they just tend to breathe, and if it's hot, it's not super hot. So I cannot recommend that enough. Next bullet point down there, you'll see is skate shoes. Those are fine. They tend to be canvas, like a heavier canvas. If they get wet, they stay wet forever. They tend to be really, really hot, and they're super boxy, like that toe is kind of squared off, and they're not perfect for climbing, but they're better than like a full-on hiking boot. Do not bring your favorite pair of shoes, because you're walking in dust and dirt and trails, and you're on the side of mountains, and you're on rocks, and they're just going to get beat up. So just be prepared. It's not like they get destroyed, but it will look like you just spent 4 days in the mountains doing really awesome activities. Okay. Anything to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, you can bring like flip-flops if you feel like you want to have shower shoes, but other than that, like you're pretty much in your tennis shoes all the time. You have to have closed-toed shoes for like all the activities, and so you kind of just have that one pair of shoes, shower shoes if you want, and then you don't really need to bring anything else.
Perfect. Perfect. Yeah, that's a good advice. Yeah, so the showers, that's a good idea. So like flip-flops or something like that.
It's a mile from where we sleep to where you start every activity, and then it's
Oh.
further from there.
Yes, good reminder. Yeah, you're going to get thousands of steps, which is really cool. Oh, that's cool. The picture in the bottom right, those kids are all seniors at the high school. That's kind of fun. All right, so on the left is archery. Obviously super fun. Upper middle is getting instructions at the climbing wall. Bottom middle, you'll see the student with the red coat. That's part of the low ropes challenge, where they're trying to accomplish a task. And there's a handful of those. And then the bottom right is on one of the days, it's either Wednesday or Thursday, you grill your own burgers. So like you have to figure out how to start your own fire. I mean, they give you the supplies and stuff. Start your own fire, and then you get to grill your own burgers and different things like that. Cool. Water bottle. Bring a water bottle. Okay, so to Mr. Fuller's point, essentially on pretty much every day, once you leave Aspen View, which is where you sleep, once you leave Aspen View, you don't go back there till dinner, really. You're like gone for the day, and I mean like 10 hours gone for the day. And so you're going to want everything that you need in a backpack. Again, you are not summiting Everest, so you don't need this zillion cubic centimeter 2-week capable backpack. You don't need that, like a day pack. And in fact, some of the students, they just empty their school backpack, and they use it for that. Some have like a day pack in their home, like their family just has one, and they use that. And so those, any of those, but you need, some students will bring like the string backpacks. I do not recommend those, because over time, you do carry a little bit of weight. Those strings will really start to kind of dig in a little bit. But if that's all you got, that's okay. That's okay. There's no need to like go out and spend $100 on a backpack. Don't do that. Just come up with a different plan. Like a pen, snacks. We don't want any junk food. Like we don't need kids hyped up on sugar. That's not amazing for anybody. So let's try and avoid that. And then a small Bible. Again, like I have this big Bible, I would never want it in my backpack. So I'd want to try and find a smaller one. So anyway, that's kind of the backpack thing. So again, a day pack or your school bag, something along those lines is preferred, not some like summiting Everest backpack. Anything to add to that? Okay. Oh man, Mrs. McCraith monitoring the chat. Thank you. Okay. Sleeping gear. So there's cabins. There's all cabins. There's beds, there's mattresses, bunk beds. Yes, but there's not, you don't bring sheets. You bring a sleeping bag, like your own sleeping bag. Bring your own pillow. Please bring sunscreen, especially if you're like fair skinned. I could scroll back because I saw a student in there when he was in 7th grade. He's a senior now. He's really fair skinned. He was like a lobster. I mean, he got torched, and it's just not awesome if you've ever had that. So sunscreen, and you're in the mountains, right? And you're outside literally all day. So sunscreen is really good. And then flashlight is good. Like if it's lights out and it's dark and you have to go to the bathroom, for the boys, your cabins are kind of off, or they're out on their own. I mean, they're just like, some are like 20 feet from Aspen View and some are like 50 feet, but nonetheless, you kind of have to walk this little path. A flashlight is really good. Mrs. McCraith, Mr. Fuller, did they do like an evening hike up to that open barn for singing at all last year?
Yeah, we had like a bonfire and
Yeah.
and stuff. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So there's another time when you'll use a flashlight because they hike up this little trail from Aspen View. It's not super long, but it's definitely something where you would have or want a flashlight. Okay. Don't forget a water bottle. Sleeping arrangements. So Aspen View is kind of, it's also this for the summer. It's kind of their middle school area. So Aspen View has 2 giant rooms, like inside this big cabin. And Aspen View has this big giant meeting room, and we'll talk about that in a second. It has the sleeping quarters for the girls, and it has the dining hall in it. It's a fairly good sized building. And then next to it is it's either 3 or 4 cabins that hold, I don't know, a dozen or so students. And so the students are kind of scattered amongst those larger rooms and the cabins. Typically, the girls have the larger rooms inside Aspen View, and the boys have the smaller cabins that are kind of right adjacent to Aspen View. The showers are in the main lodge in Aspen View. There's a little mini game room. I think there's ping pong and there's like carpet ball, or I can't remember exactly what's in there. So that's, do you want to add to that, Mr. Fuller, Mrs. McCraith? You want to add to that or not?
I don't really have a ton to say about the sleeping arrangements, but this just feels like a good time to make another shameless plug for those parent chaperones. We like really couldn't do it if we didn't have you guys come with us, and this is especially another instance. Like, we need multiple bodies in each of the cabins since there are different cabins and rooms. So think about it, pray about it. We'd love to have you. We need you.
Yes, great. So I'm gonna pick up that baton and keep going with it. So basically, so I'm going to piggyback on the sleeping arrangement, need for chaperones, and then as well as the group. So I'll just take the opportunity to dive into that. So our groups are 8 to 10, right? So given the number of students that we'll have, we need more chaperones than we have teachers. So that's where the parents come in. Okay. So the parents, are actually with a group. Like, you'll be in charge of a group of 8 to 10 students. It will be your child plus 7, 8, or 9 other students, and it'll be their friends in that group. Okay. So to Mrs. McCraith's point, the lodge, right? The lodges and the sleeping arrangements, having parents there in the cabins, supervising the cabins, is really, really important. So last thing about chaperones, if that's something you'd like to do, if you've done a background check with us in the past 3 years, it is still good, because they are good for 3 years. If you have not done a background check, the email that I send out with this video, the link to the slide deck, et cetera, will have a form to sign up for being a chaperone. And if you have not done a background check with us, it will have a link in there for you to begin the process of being a chaperone. If you do it now, then it's good to go. the turnaround time is relatively fast, but we just don't want to wait till like the day before the trip. And it's like, oh, I can go. It's like, I could never turn a background check around that fast. Okay. So yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Mrs. McCray. That was good. Do not bring. This is a cell phone free zone. The chaperones will have cell phones. If you are a chaperone and have a cell phone and need to make like 1 or 2 work calls over those 4 days, that's great. But if it's something where like you're trading stocks all day while chaperoning, this probably isn't the trip for you. And you just probably should just opt out of that trip. But if you feel like you're going to be able to like fully unplug and like be all in and present and with the kids, great. We would then, yes, please join us. But again, if you're just not able to peel away from work, then no problem. But if you can peel away from work, great. And all of a sudden, maybe something at work, just all of a sudden the building's on fire and you got to like make a call and you weren't anticipating it. That's okay. We totally get that. But obviously the goal is to be like fully present, because then you'll get the most out of it. No cell phones, gaming system, no tech of any kind. Obviously anything considered a weapon, all that good stuff. No pocket knife. Like we're not going to start whittling sticks and things like that. What some students do, and at least they have in the past, is they bring like this is going to sound funny, like an old school digital camera, because they want to capture the moment, which is great. And then we create a Google folder and all those pictures will get dumped into one big giant album, and we'll share them out with like the rest of the 7th grade families, so they can kind of see the pictures of the trip. Okay. But yeah, I think that's good there. Yep. Don't forget a water bottle. Medication. So obviously there's some students that have meds that they have to, they take each morning, or they take each morning, afternoon, whatever. Like there's a schedule that you have to kind of stay on. That is no problem. The key is that 3rd bullet point is, if you have like prescriptions that your child needs to take, we need those to Mrs. Nielsen. She organizes all that. And actually, kind of a little peek behind the scenes here, she sits down with our nurse from Children's Hospital, goes through all the documentation, makes sure that we have everything we need for your child, for all the kids. And then Mrs. McCray, Mr. Fuller, whoever is kind of like deemed the meds person by Children's and Mrs. Nielsen, who also has a background in this, so that we document all this, because all our stuff gets audited every single month. All our meds documentation gets audited every single month, and this is not an exception. Okay, so we need like a prescription. Like, don't send it in a Ziploc, send it in the original bottle. Just take out what you don't need. So if you need one Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, and you'll be back in time for Friday, only send us 3 meds, right, in the original bottle. So take all of them out, put the 3 pills in there, and that's good. Like, don't send us with a whole mass. So hopefully that makes sense. It's all exactly what I just said, other than like EpiPens. If kids are self-carry, that's fine. They can self-carry, no problem at all. Okay. What they cannot carry is like Advil and Tylenol. Like, they can't carry that. We need a note, and we will hold on to that, and we will dispense that. Here's the thing. If, one, we don't want students saying to another student, oh, my knee is so sore from walking. And then all of a sudden the kid hands them like, oh, here, hands them like 5 Tylenol or something crazy. So we can't have that. Second thing we can't have in terms of meds, and this is like serious business, by the way, because I was the meds person during all my trips, and it is like, it's intense. So if they need it, so let's say a student needs the Advil, okay? And we give them an Advil, we document the time, milligrams, the whole 9 yards. If all of a sudden there's a medical emergency with that student, the paramedic, which I've actually never had, but if that happens and the paramedics show up, they're going to ask us if this child has any meds in their system. We have to know the answer to that question, right? If the kid starts handing them out like Skittles and kids are getting sick or whatever, we're not going to be in the know. And that really puts us in a really, really tough spot. So you get the seriousness of the meds, I hope. Okay. It's a nut-free facility. A $2 meal per meal charge will be assessed for like gluten-free, dairy-free, or veg upgrades, because that is like a whole new set, because they cook them in a whole separate area. So it's a tremendous amount of work, but it's important. So if that is the case, you just have to let me know that. Okay. Bring a water bottle. Okay. I think, yeah, I think that's it. So this slide deck just kind of shows the process. So you'll see this tomorrow. This isn't important now. So I'll send you the link. It goes here. You register, log in, school groups, and then you'll hit continue once you kind of fill out your kids' information. And then you'll see, literally, you'll see this. So that's what you're going to click. Okay. That's what you're going to click. All right. If you would like to register, then you'll need to register as a parent as well. So you have to go on there and register as your child. You have to go register your child. This email with Mrs. McCraith, I'm going to send out a form. So I just literally thought of this today. So don't email Mrs. McCraith. She's got enough emails in her inbox. So you have to register your child, then you have to go back in and register yourself if you want to be a chaperone. Okay. So I'll send out, you'll see that Google form tomorrow. Finally, it's a privilege to attend. So if the expectations that we have set for behavior, respectful behavior, and all that good stuff is not being met, then we will call the parent and you will come pick them up. And we have done that actually very recently within the last few years, because we want this to be a positive experience for the students that are like all in and that are like buying into this experience. And so we're not really messing around with this. This is an unbelievable privilege. It is an unbelievable experience. And the only way that we're going to be able to really have that unbelievable experience is if we all just kind of, like, there's safety issues, right? I can't be messing around on the high ropes. I can't be messing around on the rappel or the rock wall. Like, there's just no room for that. Or the zip line. There's like an 800-foot zip line. There's just no room for that. Or like sneaking out of your room. Or, yeah, I don't know. I'm just making that stuff up. But none of that is acceptable. And we will definitely call and have you kind of picked up. So not to end on a downer, but I do want to make it very, very clear what the expectations are. If you have any questions, or again, would like to chaperone, if you've got some questions about what the chaperoning might look like, you can reach out to me or Mrs. McCraith after you fill out that Google form, and we will go and we'll go from there, and we'll just kind of answer those questions. Okay. I'm going to go back to there. This is a link. Okay. That's a link that goes to that. Okay. So when you get the slide deck, that link is going to be right there. I'll also add it to the email. That is it for me. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Okay. Let's see. Are there any questions? And that the group, like if you have like a super granular question, like as far as like the gluten-free and all that, and then maybe we can save that. But if you've got sort of big general question that the whole group might benefit from, please fire away. What do you got?
All right, it might be kind of granular, but somebody else asked it. How about GoPros? Can we send those?
Oh, that's a good question. Mrs. McCraith?
So talking to the teachers and just what we've noticed in the past, we think that with the kids, probably not. But if it's a chaperone, totally.
Cool. Thank you.
We take so many pictures and videos, but
That is true.
Yeah.
it's ridiculous. So I promise there'll be lots.
Cool. Thank you. Any other questions?
I had a quick question about chaperoning. Does it matter, like if I have a son, I can still chaperone as a female parent? I wasn't sure when you were talking about like sleeping in the same buildings or helping with the supervision duties at night, if that mattered or
Yeah.
how that looks.
Totally. We'd still love to have you. We would just have you in Sean's group during the day, and then you would be in a girls' cabin overnight.
Okay, perfect. That's what I assumed, but I just wanted to check. Thanks.
Yeah. And our goal this year for chaperones is to have 2 per group, per day group. If possible, if we get that amount of people willing to come. I think because one, that takes a little bit of the pressure off, like you're buddied up with somebody and you're in it together. But 2, we did have a couple instances last year where like somebody got sick or somebody rolled an ankle. And so like one chaperone had to leave the group. And so it was a little bit of a scheduling nightmare of like trying to get a teacher there so the chaperone could leave and stuff like that. So we just think it'd be like a little bit smoother if we could have 2 in case one needs to take a kid solo or something like that.
Cool. Anything else? Boom. Okay. Thanks all. I'm going to, this is going to render and end the recording and things like that. I will send this recording out. I'll send the slide deck out. I'll send a couple of key links out. One last thing, the payment, we're working on trying to just build it into fax versus sending you a bill. I'm working with Brant right now. He and I have been talking about that over actually like the last 2 months, trying to figure out what that might look like. I'll have more details on that. We don't need the money just right now. So that's just kind of the last detail there. Okay. All right, y'all. Thanks. Have a great night. Thanks, Mrs. McCrae. Thank you, Mr. Fuller. You're the best.